All right, so we are recording now. Um, so like I said, I'm Annie Claude. I'm the manager of interpretation. I'm going to go through these slides. We only have about 14 slides today, so there should be plenty of time for everybody to ask whatever questions you have. Um, you can leave your questions to the end if you want, or if you'd rather, you are welcome to turn on your microphone and ask a question at any time. We also have a chat function on Zoom, so if you hover your mouse over the bottom of the Zoom screen, or sometimes it's on the top, you should get a black bar with a bunch of icons on it. One of them is the chat icon, and so you can type a message into that chat box as well. All right. So first I'll talk about what the training program is for tour guides at the Arboretum. Our tours start on May 1st this year, so that's Friday, May 1st. We have tours weekly, 4 days a week throughout the growing season. We are planning on running them from Fridays through Mondays this year. We are, at least for now, dropping the Thursday tours due to low participation by visitors, but that could change depending on guide and volunteer interest. But yeah, so for the training for tour guides, the first part is attending this Zoom today. This is useful for everyone, even if you're a returning tour guide, so you're up to speed on any potential changes that we might have had in the last year. So today we just go through an overview of the program, expectation for tour guide volunteers, and the schedule for the season. I'll introduce the 2026 theme and talk about when we might start implementing that theme and what that means. We'll talk about more in depth about what the training is going to look like and how our tours work. Part two of the training that tour guides go through is attending an in-person session on April 16th from 11:15 to 2:30. So the first part of that in-person training on the 16th is going to be a safety session with our safety manager, Benny Fisher. That first part is combined with the ambassador volunteers. They will be attending as well. So, if you're somebody who wants to learn about being an ambassador and learn about being a tour guide, you could just stay for the whole day and then you get that safety training in the middle. If you're only interested in the tour guide part, just come at 11:15, join in on the training session, eat some lunch, and then we'll talk tour guides after that. So we'll talk about how to start your shift, where to go when you get to the Arboretum to start a tour guide shift, how to get any supplies that you need, how to record visitor numbers, etc. And then we will go on a couple of mock tours outside. I'll lead those and you can see what talking points we give regarding different areas of the garden. So it'll be fun. We'll be outdoors most of the time. So what is a guided garden tour? These tours are 30-minute walking tours of the display gardens. These are the gardens that are near our visitor center. So that's really nice because then visitors especially who are new to the Arboretum, they get kind of a sense of what the Arboretum's all about while staying near the visitor center so that before or after their tour, they can choose to get something to eat. They can go to the gift store. A lot of folks will hop on a tram tour after their walking tour. So it's just kind of nice that it's focused in that display garden area near the visitor center. We have two route options that the tour guide on any given day gets to choose from. One route option is that area around the perennial garden. So the dwarf conifers, perennials, annual garden, herb garden, you can kind of picture that area. And the other option is to, from the second floor of the visitor center, walk across the road and go through the Japanese garden and the home demonstration area. And I'll be showing those routes on a map later in the presentation. The goals of our tours, the first one is mainly to foster a deeper connection between our visitors and the Arboretum, as well as a deeper connection with local plant life. So we talk about both cultivated and wild type or native plants to Minnesota when we're on our tours because we pass a little bit of both. We also want to inspire our visitors to explore further. For many visitors, the tour is just part of their visit and they really want ideas on how to utilize the Arboretum either that day or in the future. So we might point to other things that are further away, such as the wetland or such as 3 Mile Drive, to give them ideas of what to do afterward. We also have a focus topic every year that changes depending on the year, where we stop along the route and talk about, 4 or 5 plants that we pass based on that annual theme. And I'll talk about what the annual theme is a little later. There are 2 different types of tour guide positions in this program. The first is the lead tour guides. This is the person who really kind of memorizes the materials, memorizes the routes for the tours so that they can feel prepared to take the lead whenever they come for a shift. So they are coming 15 minutes before the first tour is about to start, gather your materials, get settled, and then be there out on Dahlberg Terrace in front of the visitor center to greet visitors. The lead tour guide is the one who chooses the route based on what they feel comfortable or interested in talking about that day. But again, we just have the 2 routes, the one that's around the perennial garden area, Dwarf Conifers Annual Garden, and then the one across the road with Japanese garden and home demonstration. So those are our 2 options, but within that, there's a lot of different things you can choose to talk about. The lead tour guide will also answer questions about the gardens and about wayfinding. People will often ask, oh, well, you mentioned the 3-mile walk. How do I get there after my tour? So we do want the guides to look through the materials that we provide and be knowledgeable about the gardens and about what to do with the Arboretum. You don't necessarily need to know everything about every plant that you pass. I cannot say that I know everything about every plant in our garden. So we're just looking for you to have, a lot of exposure to the Arboretum and a lot of interest and knowledge based on the materials that we provide you. You don't have to know everything. Certainly wouldn't expect everyone to. The lead tour guides are accountable for setting up the tour. So taking out the sign that allows visitors to know where the tours are starting, and then taking the sign and materials back to the back room after your tours are done. Super easy, but just letting you know that lead tour guides are responsible for that. And then keeping tours engaging and informative. So talking to visitors in a way that, grabs their attention, being friendly to the visitors, and then giving them information about the gardens that they're interested in. The assistant tour guides greet the visitors when they come. Sometimes I often see a scenario when the lead guide is already standing and engaged in a conversation with a visitor. And so the assistant tour guide can really help greet visitors that are just coming to your tour to make sure that everyone feels welcome and included. The assistant tour guides can also help keep the group together, such as if we've got somebody who's kind of lagging behind the group, the assistant can kind of bring up the back to help keep the group together, encourage them to keep moving along, can answer basic questions about the Arboretum without needing to know quite as much as the lead tour guides, helps keep time. So if you're assisting a lead tour guide and you feel like, oh, we're coming up on that 30-minute time limit, you might, wave to them from the back and say, hey, got just a few minutes left. And then the assistants also help with setup and record keeping at the end of the shift. What that means is it's simple. You might, when you get to your shift, you might ask the tour guide, is there anything you need help with to get set up? Do you need a cup of water or maybe something like that? And then we do count the number of visitors that are on our tours. That really helps us understand trends about which days of the week are more popular. If a certain day isn't popular, like Thursdays were last year, then we might make decisions about changing the calendar for next year. So those record keepings are super important. So the assistant tour guide is better equipped to count visitors while the lead tour guide is focusing on their tour. So I mentioned before the training sessions this year split into 2 parts, but if you want to become a lead tour guide, there are a couple other requirements on top of attending the sessions. Now, I want to say if you are someone who was already leading tours last year and you are just returning this year, you're not required to necessarily do all of these steps because you've already been leading a lot of tours. But let me go kind of through in depth the training requirements. So if you are interested in being a lead tour guide, you attend the in-person training on April 16th so that you follow along and understand what the tours look like. We send out some training materials. Some of these are articles or web pages to read. A couple of them are recorded webinars. And so you can take part in those training materials between now and when your first lead tour guide shift is. If you have never led a tour before and you haven't been approved yet to do that, we do ask that you complete 3 assistant tour guide shifts before you can start leading them. After you're done with your 3 assistant shifts, you just email me or, my new hire, whoever that might be, and you say, I've done my assistant shifts, I'm ready to do a practice tour. And you would do a practice tour where you're leading the tour and me and maybe a couple of our other staff are following along with you. So that it's like a no pressure practice without visitors there. And then we'll give you some suggestions, some positive and constructive feedback at the end. And if after you're done with your practice tour, we all mutually feel like you're ready to start leading tours, then those lead tour guide shifts will become viewable to you in My Impact, so you can sign up for them then. And so if you were a lead tour guide in 2025 already, you only need to complete steps 1 and 2 on that list. You just need to attend the in-person training and then read the training materials that I send out after today. So if you are just interested in being an assistant tour guide, we're also really happy that you're joining us because the assistants really help out with this tour experience as well. So it's attending the informational session today. It's reviewing an expectations document that I'll provide to you prior to your first shift. So if I see you sign up for a shift, I get an email that says that you have, I'll send out that document to you so you feel more prepared for your first shift. And then you can sign up for the assistant tour guide shifts. You are most certainly welcome to attend the April 16th in-person training, even if you only want to assist with tours, but it is not a formal requirement for assistant tour guides. Assistant tour guides who are interested in becoming a lead can reach out to me about more information for completing the lead tour guide training. So for instance, you would reach out to me to get the required training materials. Once you tell me that you want to train to become a lead tour guide, I would send those materials out to you at that point. So the schedule for the 2026 guided garden tours are Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, and Mondays. So Friday through Monday, those are our peak visitor days at the Arboretum, and they're going to be running from May through September. The first one is Friday, May 1st, and I don't remember when the last one is in September, but it's that like it's the last week in September when we end the tours. 1 year in 2024, we did try scheduling tours in October, but for some reason, the visitors just weren't biting on those October tours. Kind of surprising because October is a peak month for us. But we don't do them anymore in October because we just weren't getting the visitor interest. We would love for folks to sign up for to give those weekend tours. Saturdays and Sundays, we found out last year, were by far our most popular tours. The majority of our visitors who took tours were participating on the weekends. So we're asking the tour guides, if at all possible, please sign up for those weekends. I know that last year, if you were a tour guide last year, you remember that there was one person who went in and nabbed all those weekend shifts right at the beginning of the season. So you were never able to sign up for a weekend. That tour guide is not in the state anymore. They moved away. So all those weekend shifts are available for you. And they are, if you're already a lead guide, those shifts are already on Better Impact, and you can go ahead and sign up for those if you are currently a lead guide. So the shifts are from 10:45 to 1 p.m. And during this time, there are 2 30-minute tours built in. So I'll give you kind of a rundown of what a shift looks like. So you get here at 10:45, which is 15 minutes before the first tour starts. That gives you enough time to say hello to the folks at the visitor info desk, get settled in, grab the materials that you need for your tour, and get that sign out. We have a very lightweight, like chalkboard sign that we put out on Dahlberg Terrace, so you can let visitors know that there's a tour and that's where the tour is starting. And then you just greet visitors and make light conversation with them while you're waiting for the tour to start. 11 to 11:30 is our first tour of the day. And then after your first tour is over at 11:30, visitors always have questions. And so you might end up hanging out for 5 to 10 minutes at the end of your tour just to answer visitor questions. So the time kind of goes quickly. So from about 11:45 to 12:15, so just half an hour, you can take a break. Eat lunch, get a drink, just rest your voice, whatever you need to do. And then by 12:15, you're out there again on the terrace, starting to greet visitors for your next tour. So the second tour is from 12:30 to 1 p.m. So we're asking that, if you're a lead tour guide, please sign up for whichever days you're available. We love it for consistency if you're signing up for at least 2 shifts a month, because that keeps the content fresh in your mind. And then it also helps us, get that demand met by the visitors. Assistants can sign up for however many shifts you want. Oh, here's that slide again. Okay, I guess I was getting ahead of myself. So the time commitment for lead tour guides is, like I said before, I'll just repeat myself. We're asking that you sign up for at least 2 shifts per month, assuming that shifts are available. If you go on and see that, oh, in May, all the shifts are already taken, don't worry about it. The reasons we ask for this commitment are consistency. It helps you remember the content better if you keep it fresh. And then we're investing, the time in training you. And so we're excited for you to be consistently involved. And then at least 3 weekend shifts throughout the season. So that's just between May and September, assuming shifts are available. We're asking that everyone sign up for at least 3 so that we can get those filled. Those are our highest participation dates. And we have a lot of new visitors and tourists coming in on our weekends. So the tours are really appreciated on those days. All right, so I mentioned earlier we have what we call an eastern route, which is the area near the perennial garden and the herb garden, and then we have a western route. So I'll go through the eastern route first. It starts on the Dahlberg Terrace in front of the visitor center. That's the same starting point for both routes. You'll go basically through the terrace and under that what I call the skywalk that connects the 2 buildings, and you'll walk to the Morgan Terrace behind Snyder. From there, you will walk to the Dwarf Conifer Collection, and you've got an optional little offshoot. If I have a small group, I really like to take this little boardwalk that overlooks the waterfall. I think that's really nice, if you only have like 2 or 4 people on your tour to go over there. But if you have a larger group, it's best to stay on the main path. Number 4 here is that ginkgo tree at that big intersection where there's various directions you could go. I really like to stop there for a minute and point to all the directions that you can take the group, because it gives them ideas on where they can explore later. If you stick to the main route, you go to the herb garden next, but if you want something different, maybe you've done the herb garden a few times already, you want to change it up, you can go up on this dotted line through what we call the flower collections. There's daylilies, lilies, lilacs, dahlias, so lots to talk about there if you're someone who really likes those cultivated flowers, mostly non-native. But if you're more interested in edible plants, you can go to the kitchen herb garden and then hop on over to the annual garden from there. You can also pop into the perennial garden and walk around if you have enough time. If I'm giving a tour, I often reach my 30-minute mark once I get to number 6 here, the annual garden. And visitors often get so distracted at the annual garden that we can't really capture their attention after that anyway. But if you do want to keep going further, you could go to the Wilson Rose Garden and end your tour there. Or you could go continue up to the end of the route, which would be the 2nd floor entrance to the visitor center. This year, it's very exciting. We have a new exhibit in that garden that's right outside the back of the visitor center, and it is an Ojibwe gardening exhibit co-curated by a couple, Marika and Nawakwese, who are Native American, and they are sharing some of the sacred plants in their cultures and what they are used for. So if you can get to the end of the tour, that's a really good exhibit to end with and invite your visitors to explore it. The western route also starts on the Dahlberg Terrace, but then you will actually walk through the building to the 2nd floor and enter the gardens from that western 2nd floor entrance of the visitor center. So that Ojibwe garden that I mentioned will be the first thing you come to. And so we will be writing some content so that you can talk about it. We would love for you to mention that exhibit at the beginning of your tour. So exciting new thing this year. From there, you would cross the road, mention the rock garden. There's the Japanese garden, and then the hosta glade. From the hosta glade, you get to the woodland azalea garden where you can talk about the azaleas or the koi. And then from there, go to the home demonstration garden. Two new exciting things in the home demonstration gardens this year. One of them is a rootstock recipe garden. So all of our chefs who are involved in our culinary program at the Arboretum contributed recipes. And the gardener, Ella, she found the vegetables that are in their recipes and has planted them in the garden. So super cool. You can stop there and talk about that. And then you can end your tour at another new exhibit, which is a Four Sisters garden. This is a demonstration of Hidatsa Native American gardening practices. It's similar to the Three Sisters system, but they added sunflower into it, making it the Four Sisters gardening system. So that's another new exhibit this year, and you can end your tour around there. This is a nice place to end the tour because you can point out the Beeline shuttle stop that's right there, and you can see a lot of things in the horizon. So you can talk about the Rose Garden, the Sensory Garden, how to get on 3 Mile Walk, the Baron's Cabin, all these good things. So when we go on tours, we spend a lot of time just talking about Arboretum gardens, the basics of the Arboretum and things to do here. So that's kind of, I have this cupcake graphic. The basics about the Arboretum gardens are like the basis for your tour. On top of that, we have the annual theme. And so throughout your tour, you can talk about plants along the way that fit into the annual theme. We have information about all of these plants in the materials that we give you before the season starts. And so you can do this. Most guides do talk about the themed plants. I'll get into that a little bit later with some caveats. But that's kind of, something extra that we add at the Arboretum because it adds value to the tours and it's educational that way. We're teaching the visitors about gardening and something about cold climate plants, not just what each garden is. So it's nice. And then you can add your personal touch too. This is part of the beauty of having real life guides leading the tours versus, just a self-guided tour on your phone. You can insert, your favorite Arboretum memories, Arboretum plants and garden spaces. You can talk about, personal stories or anecdotes that you have related to the plants, as long as they relate to the topic of the tour. All right, so I mentioned we have a theme every year. Our 2026 theme is pollinator plants. This is partly because a lot of the returning guides have requested this theme, and we think it's a great theme. Also, it as you will learn later in the season, it aligns with other events upcoming in the next year. We love talking about pollinators here at the Arboretum. Pollinator plants are a diverse, huge group of plants, and they're important parts of our ecosystem because they support these insects that our ecosystems rely on. And visitors can grow a lot of these plants in order to support pollinators, which is a huge need in the Twin Cities. There are a few, sub key messages underneath this theme. One is that pollinators are important to our ecosystems and human food systems. Apples, like we can't eat apples without pollinators. Pollinators rely on flowering plants to survive. And so gardeners can support pollinators by planting species that pollinators use. And so we're going to be showing the visitors some of these plants along the tour based on which ones are blooming. Now, I do want to give one caveat here. With Zoe having departed a couple of weeks ago, and I have all of my other programs that I manage, I might not have time in the beginning of the season to provide all of the information on which pollinator plants are blooming at which point. And so you might need to omit the pollinator plant aspect from your tours in the beginning of the season until we have our full team who can go out there and check which plants are blooming every week and let you know which pollinator plants to talk about. So just giving you kind of some expectations that the theme materials might not quite be ready at the beginning of the season. But if you are someone who's really knowledgeable about pollinator plants, you can talk about them regardless. To sign up for tour guide shifts, you log on to My Impact, or I think it's called Better Impact now. The category these are listed under is guest services. There are two. The lead guide shifts are listed as walking tour guide dash lead walking tour guide. These shifts are only viewable to you if you have been approved to lead tours. So if you have completed that practice tour, we give your name to the volunteer coordinators and they make those shifts viewable to you. If you have not been yet approved to be a lead tour guide, you won't see those, but you will see the assistant walking tour guide shifts, which are listed as walking tour guides, assistant walking tour guides. So those are viewable by everyone. If you need to cancel, just contact me at least 3 days before, and we'll work together on finding somebody else to lead the tour. If you need to cancel short notice, such as you have an urgent conflict or an illness come up, right before your shift, you can call me on my cell phone or text me and I'll work behind the scenes to find somebody else to give the tour. We communicate weekly via email updates. I think Emily Treptow just sent the first update to the tour guide list a couple hours ago. So she sends these updates to tour guides, discovery booth facilitators, as well as ambassadors. These emails include a lot of great info, such as garden highlights, what might be in bloom if we, if we have the staff capacity to get those updates to you. They'll include open shifts that we're trying to fill, Arboretum news, and maybe construction updates. As you know, there's a lot of construction going on around here. Opportunities for training and professional development, etc. We check in person during the season too. So an interpretation staff member, either myself or my new hire, will join your tours about 2 times every season to check in, just see how you're doing, get to know you, and then you can bounce ideas back and forth on how to make your tours even better. During your shifts, your visitor info desk staff, the people inside the visitor center, Great Hall, are there to greet you and help if needed. So on those shifts, you might not see me during your shift if I'm not at the visitor center, but you'll see those visitor info desk staff who we're very connected with. And so those are going to be your main friendly contacts while you're at the Arboretum. My contact information is here. That is my cell phone. I am from Iowa. That's where the 515 comes from. You can email me as well. And when we know who our new visitor learning specialist is, we will get their contact information out to you too. So for the lead guides, when you come on April 16th, you'll get the packet of information that you can study before you start your first shift. I also, depending on my capacity, I might send these materials out via email even before that April 16th date. But again, I'm trying my best right now. So I'm not sure if I'll get those materials out until April 16th. They will include the full tour narrative. This isn't a script. It's not Disney. We're not telling you have to say the same thing word for word. Obviously, I don't. They're just thorough descriptions of the gardens and the plants that you're going to be passing. It'll also include plant profiles of the pollinator plants along the tour routes once we have that ready. It'll include links to online resources such as recorded webinars and articles about the Arboretum and about the annual theme. We also have this story map, which is a phone-based program. You can also do it on your computer. It's like a self-guided tour. You click on these little icons on the map of the Arboretum display gardens, and it'll give you information about points along that route. We'll also include the plant profiles from 2024 and 2025. So last year, the theme was University of Minnesota bred plants. The year before that, it was trees. So you'll get the plant profiles from those past years too, like a library of information that we accumulate from year to year. There will be in that list, it'll indicate which materials are required versus optional for the lead tour guides. All materials are optional for the assistant guides. All right, I'm gonna unshare my screen so I can see everybody again, and let me know if there are any questions.
I have a question. Is there a uniform we wear, or can we
No,
wear anything?
you can wear anything, yeah, just as long as you're, can you wear your volunteer name tag? That would be perfect. Okay. Good question, thanks. Any other questions about logistics of signing up or what it looks like to start a shift? I know that those are some of our frequently asked questions last year. Nothing? Is anyone here brand new to the tour guide program? Susan and Paula. Okay. Well, I'm glad you came. All right. Well, if there aren't any other questions or comments, I don't know if any of the returning tour guides wanted to offer any comments or words of advice. You're welcome to do so.
I'll just jump in. I know I found in the past that it's helpful to be conversational, whether it's inside you come in, you get the sign, you put it out. It's really good to check in with that front desk and get some conversation going around, yep, I'm here. Yes, we're doing a tour. And then they start to get supportive also and start sending people out. But a lot of times, just starting conversations out on the patio, as people start to come in, you can just let them know you're going to be doing a tour. So sometimes you have to do a little soliciting to get folks interested, which can be helpful.
Absolutely. Thanks, Judy. I really appreciate that.
The other thing that might be worth talking about, maybe you do again later, is you will sometimes have situations like last year, I had a group of like 5, 6 ladies that were all coming for the tour together. And I had my heart set on going through the Japanese garden, but one was in a wheelchair or one was on, crutches or a walker. And so sometimes you just have to adjust a little bit based on who's in your group.
Gotcha. And we do form the routes so that we're always on accessible paths. But were you just thinking the Japanese garden is kind of a far walk?
We talked about it with the group and they just preferred to go the Snyder route instead. They thought it would be better or easier. So I just kind of left it up to them which part we actually went to. So yeah.
That was really nice of you. I appreciate you considering what the visitors need and want for the tours.
Hmm.
I've also had visitors say that they only wanted to go to the Japanese garden, and if that's one person in a group of 10, we can't just accommodate what they're wanting to do necessarily. But in my case, it was just one couple and one other person, and the couple was fine going to the Japanese garden too. So we went with what the requester had asked.
Hmm.
Judy, since you're already on the screen here, do you have any advice for someone trying to learn the material for the first time?
Oh my goodness, you gave us such great materials last year. I know when I sat down to review the day before I was going to be doing a tour, I was just like hyperventilating. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so much information. So I guess my advice would be, just as you said in your presentation, just pick out those 4 or 5 things that you really want to focus on and really want to talk about, and the rest can kind of fill in around it type of thing. And you can't know every answer to every question that comes up. So yeah, you just got to breathe. There's so much that you can potentially talk about. So just pick those, a few things that you can run with and yeah, yeah. Does that
What,
make
what's the
sense?
average, what's the average sizes of a tour group? Can I ask that question?
Yeah, the average size is 8.
Okay.
Zoe actually crunched the data after last year.
Okay.
Mhm. And this is just my personal preference. I really like a group that size, somewhere between 8 and 12, because I feel like it's a large enough group that I find it really satisfying.
Hmm.
But it's not so large that it's hard to keep everyone's attention.
Hmm. Well, I'll throw in a comment. One of my favorite tours was with one person, and she had just retired, just joined the Arboretum that day, was so excited to be on a garden tour. And of course, she's like, "Oh, you don't have to do the tour." But what that allowed us to do was really just walk around and talk about what she wanted to talk about. It was really fun.
Fun. Yeah, I'll chime in a little bit, Annie, and group that I think we've always said, as you're trying to learn the materials, come along as the assistant or observing, and then if you feel like you know part of it, do half a tour or say, oh, I'll jump in on this and just do a piece
Mhm.
and then add more as you go.
One more thing I'll say, that's really good advice, Lynn. Um, regarding the average number of visitors for a tour, we do know that we get a lot more visitors for the 12:30 tour than we do for the 11. So, and I don't know, it's kind of nice. Like the first tour of the day has fewer visitors, so you can kind of get your feet wet rather than getting there and there's 20 people standing outside waiting for you. So, smaller tours at 11, larger tours at 12:30 generally.
Great.
Any other questions? Otherwise, hopefully I see everybody on the 16th. I think it's going to be a fun day.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you
right.
all. for listening.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.